Hello and welcome back to Dicebreaker, where we are back once again at Gen Con 2023, and today I'm joined by Spenser Starke.
Yeah,
hello Spencer.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm so good. It's so good to see you.
So for folks who may know your name, but may have forgotten before watching this video, do you mind giving us a quick intro to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a game designer at Darington Press. I'm best known for Alice is Missing, the silent role-playing game. But I also am now game designing for Darington Press and making some really fun products that I'm so excited to share with you today. This has been my baby for a while.
Awesome.
So.
And Darrington Press, folks may have heard of a little show called Critical Role.
Yes.
And yes, obviously Darrington Press kind of grew out of that, and now not just playing games, but making games.
Yeah,
Designers like yourself.
I'm so lucky that I get to just make games for a living at Darington, and with Critical Role, it's like a dream come true. So
amazing.
Yeah.
And your newest game is Daggerheart.
Yes.
Great name.
Thank you.
Love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a fancy RPG.
Yeah.
Like, yes. A name like Daggerheart, it could only be. So yeah, this is the first time you're showing it off, right?
Yeah, so Gen Con is the first opportunity for people to see the game. It is in early development. It is we're in the early stages of it, but at least enough for people to be able to get their hands on it and see what we've been working on. So this has been my baby for a little bit, and I'm really excited for people to get a first look, a little preview of it before it goes into even more development, deeper development, and getting feedback and hearing people play it and watching people make choices. It's really been informative around how we move forward with the rest of the game. And so I always want to playtest early and playtest often, especially in a game like this. So really excited to be here with it.
Nice. And obviously Critical Role started out D&D show, has played plenty of stuff since. The games you're putting out as Darington Press very much lean into, I think, what people expect from kind of Critical Role and its associated stuff, very story-driven, very kind of collaborative. So where does Daggerheart fit into that? You know, what are we looking at? What are we doing in this game?
So this is very much a collaborative storytelling role-playing game. So it is narrative-focused, but it is designed to go from levels 1 to 10. You have levels in it. You still have characters, and you have communities and ancestries, and you have foundation cards, which are sort of your subclasses. You have classes, you have hit points, all that kind of stuff. So it is it's my attempt to blend really my whole team's attempt to blend the narrative with the mechanical. There's maps and minis in this game, but it leans into that narrative focused kind of play. Which is what makes me so excited. This is the kind of game that I have always wanted to play in the fantasy space, where I'm able to balance that. There's enough mechanical choice that it feels like as I progress, I'm able to really specialize my character and find synergies. But the mechanics go out of their way to support narrative. A narrative experience.
Nice. And you said you've been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
Where did the origins of this come from? Because again, Darington been around for a while. You've obviously been making games for a long time. Where did the idea for this come from? How's it evolved?
I've just coming into the space, I've always wanted to make a game like this. So the origins are really us at Darington sitting down and going what do we want to make? What makes us excited? And so I was part of the team that pitched this game, and we have a bunch of projects in the works, and this is one of the ones that sort of rose to the top, and so I was just lucky enough to be able to they were go develop it out, see what it looks like, let's figure out if that's what you want to do, let's figure out what it looks like, and so I was lucky enough to have their support in exploring that kind of thing, and then we play tested a whole lot and really started to feel out the game. And I feel when I'm designing games, I'm always trying to listen to what the game wants, if that makes sense. You play and then you listen to what the game should be doing, and then you adapt based on that. So this design came out of a lot of iterative, a large iterative process of playing and figuring out okay, let's tweak this so that it feels this needs to be a little more narrative, but need a little more mechanical support here, and trying to thread that needle between super crunchy and only narrative into that space that lies right in between.
Nice. And so Darington has done Till the Last Gasp, kind of similar 2-player, very narrative driven. You've got Candela Obscura, which was fairly recent. how does this fit into, I guess, that lineage? Like, has it evolved based on how those games came out and the reception to those and how the process of making those?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because if we look at like To the Last Gasp, that is a small box experience, right? It is a role-playing game, but it plays almost like a board game, right? And that's very contained, not unlike the game that I put out previously, Alice is Missing, where it's like in a box, it has cards, right? It's like, people might mistake it for a board game if they don't know. And so that is one type of experience. And then Candela Obscura, which was the game that I was working on previously to jumping back into this, was sort of a medium weight game. It's like or medium, not even weight, but it's like medium scale game. Right, it's like short-term campaigns, maybe 25 sessions, right? That's kind of the look, the like medium form factor game. And then Daggerheart is like the long-term campaign play. So the games kind of fall into these different categories of like how do we want to play, right? And so it is always informed by all of the different designs that are coming through the company. And also, I mean, this game is built on the shoulders of giants. It is built on so many games that I love and adore, and so I think that the important thing there is like we're always learning from what we're doing, right? We're always learning from the other games we're making, but also this can be its own thing, and this really is its own thing. It does not share lineage with those other games that we've put out in a distinct way. It's so funny. Somebody played it yesterday, and they were like, oh wow, it's like totally different from Candela, but there's like there's a couple of through lines that you can see. Me as a designer just like pulling stuff in. So and I was like, oh, I had no idea that was similar, you know what I mean, in the design, but because the same person is working on the design, like we see those through lines through the games. And one of the things I'll say too is that a lot of the games that I've made previously have been card-based.
Right.
Icarus was card-based,
Yeah,
Alice is Missing is card-based.
Yeah.
And so jumping into Daggerheart, I have an inclination to like move to cards. And so the game is run, the character creation is built using cards.
Oh, nice.
So when you are choosing you choose a class and then you choose a foundation, which is kind of like a subclass. And when you do that, you literally choose like the foundation card so if we're playing a rogue, there's like a foundation card that you put directly on the character sheet, and
Nice.
that is that has all of your mechanical stuff on it. You have what are called ancestries and communities. Those are basically like your lineage, right? And like kind of where you grew up or the community you grew up in. So I can put the ancestry down here and like the community down here, and now my character's built.
Wow.
Right?
Simple as that. Yeah, right.
So like we've already built out the core of the character just by laying the cards on the character sheet.
Excellent. And so from there, like moving into the game itself,
Yeah.
like when a folks rolling dice, like how does it deal
Such a
with
question.
conflict, with combat, and
Yeah, totally. So it's a 2d12 system, and so you're rolling 2d12. They're of different colors or distinct from each other.
Yep.
One is your hope die, one is your fear die. You're also looking at, you have stats, you're looking at your stats, or what are called your character traits, and you're taking the modifiers from those and adding those via what are called modifier tokens to your roll. So if I have a +2 in strength, right, I would take 2 of those modifier tokens, I put them in my hand as well, and I'd roll everything, and then I add up the dice, so that's 11 + 7, that's 18, 19, 20.
got ya.
So that's a 20, and then I look at which die is higher, that'd be with fear, so that's a 20 with fear.
Ah, okay.
So there's sort of two axes.
So you're adding them
of-
together, but that's why they're different colors.
Right, and so you're looking at which one is higher, and so you have these different you have this gradient of results, which is like you have a success with hope, which is like
okay, right.
it's a full success, right? You have a success with fear, which is like you get what you want, but then the GM gets to make a move.
Got ya.
Right, and then you have like a miss or a fail with hope, which means that you don't get what you want, but the consequences are limited. They aren't as bad as they could be. And then you have a miss or a fail with fear. And that means things go pretty poorly, right? And if both of your hope and your fear die land on the same number, it's a critical success. So you have criticals popping up, 1 in every 12 rolls, which is really fun. Players have gravitated towards that because they're like, oh, I got 2 1s. Oh, I got 2 1s, right? And it's like, so that's the way the dice system kind of works. And it allows for this nice gradient of, we found in playtesting, it allows for this nice gradient of results where you never kind of know how the story's going to twist.
Yeah. Can I ask, did you choose D12 for a particular reason? Like, because I'm always interested
Such
by
a good
like,
question.
people's preferences for dice. Because obviously, D20, loads of love for the D20.
Sure.
Like, Powered by the Apocalypse,
D6,
2D6 gets
right.
loads of love. D12, I feel like underappreciated a lot of
It's
the
so
time.
underappreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting the dice nerd in me. Here we go. D12 was chosen for a couple of reasons. One, I love the D12. It's just a great shape. It rolls really well. But also, 2d12, when you combine them together, they make a nice curve, right? And also the results, like the target number, when you're rolling the dice and trying to reach a number, because the GM determines what number you need to be able to succeed, right? For people that are used to a d20-based system, the numbers aren't too far off, right? It's like between like 10 and 13 is where the dice generally fall. So the adaptation on the GM side and even on the player side is not that much as far as like difficulty numbers.
Yeah, you know, 15 is pretty good.
Yeah,
like,
15's like 15's pretty good, or like 8 is like probably not great, right? So it fell nice in there, and also the D12s feel really good when you roll them, which I know is like so weird and like is so tactical.
You're doing it so much.
But like you're doing it so much that like rolling those two, they have nice big. Oh, look at that! It's a critical success. They roll really well on the table, and I also think D12s are underappreciated. The swinginess of a D12 is not as much as a D20, but it's you have a little more variation than like a D6 or even a D8 or D10. So I just kind of fell in love with the fact that they were, you know, that it had both the like mechanical oriented reasoning and also that they feel good. Nice. So anyway, that was the choice.
Right. And in terms of the setting, because obviously like there have been critical role books that pull from what folks know on the thing. I think all of the games out of Darington so far kind of all distinct settings, right? They are their own games, their own worlds.
So with Daggerheart, it's TBA as far as like what that looks like. What I will say is that we have support for people who want to create their own campaigns. You don't have to know anything about Critical Role to get into Daggerheart. There's no like prerequisites needed to be able to get in. We will support people that want to play in the kind of world that Critical Role has brought. There's, you know, but as far as like what that support looks like, it's all TBA. The approach of the game as well is very like collaborative, you know, story-driven, character and GM relationship is a lot less all on the GM, right? As far as like story and lore and those kinds of things built in, but we are going to create opportunities for GMs who maybe don't want to like build out their own kind of thing as well. And what that looks like is all up in the air still. It's truly up in the air still. We're developing all of it. It's very early in the design process as far as thinking in that kind of scope, right? I'm trying to make the system itself work. So, and you'll see at some of the playtests that we're doing, or they're in playtests, or showcases at Gen Con, where we're like showing off the game for the public. People are sitting down and playing with GMs. We have a sheet that's like, hey, you know, our game begins in the kingdom of blank, and you just have a bunch of options, and you fill one of those in. It's like, last night, you know, we learned that and then it's like options, the horde attacked, or like the queen was assassinated, or whatever. And you pass that around the table and have players just choose it. And again, that's not necessarily how the game is going to be in the final product, but I built that specifically for Gen Con to show like, this is the ethos of the game. We are all here collaborating together and telling this kind of story, especially in one shot for like Gen Con, right? Trying to capture the collaborative nature of the game. So yeah, it falls in that space of like, looking at the table as a collective group and telling a story together, which I'm really excited about.
Nice. And like Total Last Gasp, obviously kind of like Box Brother, like Candle Obscura, like I playtest currently, I believe.
It's still we locked the book, so it's coming soon.
And then this is obviously in development. Like I know it may be a way off, but those are all like different systems, different worlds. Like, is that kind of the plan? Like, is it always going to be like, hey, a new system, a new world? Like, do you think you may return to them?
It's such a good question. I don't know. I can't speculate on that. I think we are taking it one game at a time, right? We're just, we're making the games that we love. We're making the games that we're excited about, and at the end of the day, like that's what Darington is kind of about. Is about making games that we feel excited about. So we'll see where that falls. Awesome. It's a new company, so we're trying lots of different stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. And like Candela Obscura, like obviously was a show and then became an RPG.
Yeah.
Here you're kind of potentially working in the other direction, maybe?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, who knows, right? Like, I think the system, for me, it was an exciting opportunity to play in a space that felt familiar to people, right? I think sitting down to play this game, about half to 3/4 of it is going to feel very familiar to people that have played fantasy-based, even like D20 systems or PBTA or any of those. Like, it's going to feel familiar, and then 25% of it has been sort of built from the ground up in the way that I have always wanted these kinds of systems to run. So enough familiarity that people can jump in, but enough that's different that it allows people to sink their teeth into something new.
Nice. And as you said, like Total Lost Cars, Daggerheart, like fairly light, kind of, folks are able to jump in. Candela Obscura, a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Is the plan to like ramp people towards, obviously not quite full D&D, because that's D&D.
Yeah.
But do you think you might like get even crunchier at some point? Like,
So-
is the temptation there?
So I think that the goal here is to create an experience that is both accessible to new players, which means sitting a little closer to the narrative, streamlined, modern system feel, but also provide enough robustness in the system for those who really like to look at synergy, who really like to look at the way that like the cards interact or the mechanics interact to build a character that feels powerful. If you're into that kind of gaming, this game does have really cool synergies that you can find. You can absolutely build up like a character that is incredibly powerful, but also the game doesn't demand that you make those choices, right? Like, it is more narrative focused in that sense, and does just simply by having the cards on the character sheet makes it so that we're just putting down cards and we're playing, right? I'll note that each of the characters are made up of 2 domains. So the Rogue is Midnight and Grace. And that means that I'm choosing from the Midnight and Grace domain decks when I'm building my character. And so when I'm choosing, like when I level up or when I'm doing character creation, I would just take a couple of these cards and I'd lay them out.
Oh, cool. Okay, so spells.
And now I have my abilities that my character can do. It's all of, like, it basically traces the line down the character sheet from here down the center and then to here. And that helps to be able to, like, keep newer players from feeling overwhelmed by like not only having to choose their abilities out of the book, but also having them readily available and having some art that like reminds them of what the ability does. Right? Like they can literally look down and be like, oh yeah, I know what this does because I see it visually in front of me.
Yeah, in the same way that people buy like spell decks for D&D, you're just like putting that in the game from the off, like here you go.
Yeah, totally. And we found that it makes it really accessible, and people were just really like grabbing cards and being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take this one. Do you want that one? Right? And like trading them around and stuff. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I like cards. So as a designer, like that's just, I start with cards most of the time. So yeah.
And like, presumably then there's flexibility on top of that. Like you're not just like pinned to these cards. That is just the starting point, the way you want to take that character.
Yeah. So as you build out, every level you'll choose a new card from your domain, from either of your domains, and then you also have a level up sheet. And there's a really cool, actually, if I can show you. So if I'm playing a rogue, for example, I just slide out this piece of paper to the left.
Nice, okay.
And that's character creation.
Cool.
So I just follow all of these steps basically, and like I take my inventory, I choose my character description, background questions, connections, and then it also has like suggested traits and ancestries and weapons and armor, right? And then once I'm done with that, it lives there, so I can reference my background questions and my connections with the other characters if I need them. But then I can also slide it this way, and this is how I level up.
Oh, cool.
So that's all of your choices in leveling up. So you're taking a card, but you're also increasing your character via all of these mechanics as well.
Nice.
So a little bit of cards, a little bit of like choosing, but my goal was to never have players flipping through a rulebook to have to figure out how they level up or how they, what their ancestry is good at, or what their like, foundation card is again, or their foundation of their character is again. Like their starting moves are written right on the character sheet. Every character sheet is custom for that class, right? So like just by creating sort of these modular sheets, I'm hoping that it creates a little more accessibility as far as like how to actually keep the progression of your character in your head during your campaign.
Nice. So then are we, in the box, do you expect it will be largely sheets and then like almost like a board game manual? Because it sounds like the rules are mostly there.
So the rule book is going to have lots of support for play. It's going to teach people how to play these kinds of games. My biggest thing is that the approach on this game, because it's more narrative based than maybe a traditional kind of D20 system or the like, I want to make sure that players feel like they know exactly how the game is supposed to run. So we will have a full rule book, and then it will also, there'll also be cards as well that are included. But I really think that my goal for games is always to make them as accessible and supportive of the players and the GM as possible. So there will be a book, but it will have the rules in it, but we'll also have support.
Nice. And like for that flexibility, like D&D people love homebrew classes, like just meld stuff together. Will you be able to do stuff like that? I know you've mentioned, like there are obviously subclasses. You pull from 2 different decks, so there's a bit of that. Can you get real weird with it and kind of wild? Or?
Oh, totally. So one of the things that's really fun is that you have the opportunity to like combine domains together. And right now, the classes combine. Rogue is Midnight and Grace. But if you wanted to like go crazy in homebrew, and you're like, okay, what if I took Grace, because I really like that deck. Grace is very like social, is sort of less combat oriented. It's more like smooth talking, and you can see like there's an enrapture spell that like keeps somebody's eyes on you, so that people can like go and do things behind people's backs, right? It's like, hey, look at me, don't look at me, look at me, right? Deep into my eyes, so I might choose that, but I might choose to combine that with like the Blade deck, because I want to build somebody who's both like, a little bit social and dangerous.
Yeah, look into my eyes as I stab you.
As I stab, yeah. I love that. So like, you could totally just combine those together and create a whole nother class. And that's something that in success of the system, right, there's always going to be these opportunities for full support on our side of like new classes that combine the domains that already exist. But like, there's nothing stopping you at the table from like playing with how the combinations work and making your own stuff. I mean, there's ancestries. We have 9 of them here that are at Gen Con to sort of preview, but we're gonna have 27 ancestries upon release. So lots of different characters, lots of different like lineages to try. And so on top of that, like making an ancestry is as simple as like coming up with a cool mechanic that really reinforces what's neat about that lineage of that character, and that's all you have to do. So absolutely would be able to be homebrewed and support that kind of like, player, GM, forward, third-party support.
Do you have a particular combination at the moment that you just love playing?
As far as like the current supported classes are concerned, so, oh my god, I mean, there's so many cool combos in the game that I'm excited for people to find. I really like. There's one for the wizard that is basically it uses Splendor and Arcana, so you get a little bit of like healing opportunity as a wizard and a whole lot of spell options.
Oh, nice.
So you actually have what are called grimoires as the wizard, and they have multiple spells on them that are a little more utility. And as you level up, you have what's called a loadout, and there's like a sheet that sits below your character sheet, like a quarter sheet that sits below it, and you lay out the cards there. And once you reach a certain level, you can you're gonna have to choose what cards you want to have in your loadout at any given time. But if you have the perfect spell, this is the Book of Iliad, and it has telepathy. You can open a line of mental communication with one target you can see, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah. And you're like, man, I really need to use telepathy, and I don't have it in my loadout. You'll see there's a stress cost up here. I can basically take that out of my vault, pay that stress cost, and bring it into my loadout. Right. So the wizard has like really great utility spells all the way up. It's like from levels 1 to 10, and so I really love being able to like keep those in my vault
Yeah, you're
and
never
be like,
necessarily locked
oh,
out on
I know exactly what I have exactly what I need here. I'm gonna flash this in and like, you know, pay the stress. It's worth it, and move that card out, and then have the thing on standby that I need. So yeah, but there's so many really cool combos, and some of the classes I'm really excited for. There's what you'd expect out of the classes,
Yep.
right?
Fantasy classes.
Fantasy
Yeah,
classes.
yeah.
But also there's a class called a Seraph, and a Seraph is kind of a combination of a traditional like paladin and a cleric rolled into one. So you can really specialize in healing, or you can really specialize in hitting very hard, and sometimes a little bit of both, right? Like you can hit somebody and heal somebody. So that's really cool. And then there's also a class called the Guardian, and they're a very like defensive, tanky kind of class. The closest traditional fantasy class would be like a barbarian, but their whole thing is like I stand in front of you and I defend you and nobody hits you. And so those are often the people on the front lines, and I really like their build because as a player they feel like I can play both a support class and also be the main character sometimes when it calls
you don't just
for
have to stand at the back, like,
right,
buffing
yeah.
away, yeah.
Like I can be the one fighting and then jump in front of somebody to take a hit for them if they want that. So sort of mixing that like support and attack class together.
Excellent. So, like you say, you're showing it off kind of first time here at Gen Con, like playing some games. What does the future look like for Daggerheart? Like, when can we expect to see more of this, and when can folks even expect to have it in their hands?
Yeah.
As you know?
So TBA on when the game is coming out. We are working really hard to make it as great as it can possibly be, and that's our mandate right now. Is just like let's just play it until it's ready, right? And I really appreciate that because it's a big system. It's a big swing, and it's a lot. I mean, you know, being 10 levels and like lots of different classes, like the scale on it is huge, and I want to make sure it's done right. So we're gonna take the time, we're gonna make it good, and people will be able to play it along the way. We're gonna beat all the cons and stuff, showing it off. So
yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good as it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it
Thank
goes.
you.
And beyond that, like, what else is Darington Press? Like, what else do you have coming out? Is it just like you're all in on Daggerheart for now?
So Queen by Midnight just came out at
Right.
at Gen Con, like a limited number of the games. We sold out every day in like 45 minutes, which was awesome. And we have Candela Obscura that's going to drop at some point in the future. The book is going to come out, and now I'm on this, and they're like, hey, just focus on this for now. So I'm not having to worry about anything else. I'm sure there are other things going on. I'm very lucky in that they're like, you focus on this, don't worry about the rest of the world. Like, you just do your thing, work hard, like work as hard, you know, as we know that you work, and like we will support you. So I'm just excited to share this, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Thank
but yeah,
you.
for now, thank you so much,
Yeah, of
Spenser
course.
Starke, for
Yeah.
joining us. And yeah, thank you for watching
Thank you.
Dicebreaker. If you want more coverage of everything tabletop RPGs, board games, TCGs, including playthroughs of Icarus.
Yeah.
Spencer's previous game is right here on the channel. I think there's stuff on Alice is Missing over on the website. Look, we've been around your
I
games.
know,
We're-
I'm so thankful
yeah,
for you.
your
It's
games,
so
they're
fun.
all right, you know.
Thank you.
But if you want to go and check them out, you can find them over on the website or on youtube.com/Dicebreaker. But for now, thank you again, Spenser
Thank
Starke.
you.
Thank you for watching Dicebreaker. We'll be back with more Gen Con coverage and more just tabletop coverage. But for now, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Bye.